Hello everyone, welcome once again to another Power BI related tutorial by Team SlideScope. In this part we are learning about creating a simple data analysis dashboard that can help us with some agricultural production, supply and distribution information, and here we are choosing coffee as an example. Dataset is available on Kaggle. Here we have total distribution of coffee, domestic consumption. This is for all the years combined, for all the countries combined, import, export, production. But if you want to see for a particular country like Brazil, right? So you can see their total amount of yearly distribution and domestic consumption, yearly import, export and production value, different type of coffee wise like soluble or roast and ground, different type of those type of coffee wise import, export and domestic consumption is also given in the data. We can select some neighboring countries also like Chile for example. So and we can put them together and see their, or we can compare them differently. Then this is what you can do here. So this is a very simple project where we are going to create these different visuals, and we will try to analyze how to use the data. Everything will be taught in this tutorial, so let's get started. So the data set that we are using in this project is coffee distribution across 94 countries, this data set. And you can see from where it is generated. It gives you information about coffee production, supply and distribution, and years taken into consideration are 1960 to 2023, and unit description for attribute values is 1060 kg bags. What does this mean? So if you will look at the data set, and you will see for example in Albania 2005, here you can see 80. So this is bean imports. That means how many beans were imported, or Arabica production. Now what are these different terms? Like here you will see Robusta, soluble. So while explaining the process of creating dashboards or doing data analysis, I will also explain you like what is Arabica coffee. For example, Arabica production refers to cultivation of Arabica coffee beans, which come from coffee Arabica plant, and known for their smooth, mild flavor and make up about 60 to 70% of global coffee production. Then what is roast in ground, then what is Robusta, what is soluble. I will provide this as an article, as well as I will explain in between. So here you can see these numbers written in front of a country, sorry, and a particular year represent the amount of bags that were either imported or exported or consumed, for example domestically consumed. So this is also given. So on the basis of this we will be able to create dashboards for different types of coffees. For example, we can create one for Arabica, we can create for bean, we can create for you know soluble, etc. So let's see how we can proceed with that. So now we will simply open Power BI desktop, and in Power BI desktop we will just add a text box here, and in text box let's add what we are trying to analyze. So we are trying to analyze coffee production, supply and distribution. So this is coffee production, supply and distribution, and this is basically a global data. So we will write across 94 countries, and then we will simply use the font size as 28, make it bold, and or we can reduce the font size to 24. After doing this we can align it to center. This is something that we do mostly, and you can spend little bit more time on decorating it. I will quickly go to effect, shadow, visual border, border color as same as this color. That's what I mostly do. and then later if needed I will change the theme. Next is, after doing this, we can put some image here representing coffee. So we can go to the insert tab, and in the insert tab we have image. So in E drive I have this image that I downloaded from Canva. So we can add this image here which represents what we are trying to achieve. Okay, and we will fill the image here. So this is our image representing copy distribution, and this is our heading. Now let's get started, and if needed we can change the styling here, like we can change the color. That is also something you can do. And for this we can again go to properties, position, and give some padding from top so that we can put it in center. Now one thing, obviously the most important thing, go to home and get the data. Since the file is in a CSV format, we will load the file and see if it is being read properly. You can see country, year, etc. Everything is here, and we can load the data. And this will load PSD coffee production, supply, distribution, and we have all the columns, and looks like all the columns are being read as a numerical value, which is good for us. So in the data set we have Arabica production, bean export, bean import, beginning stocks, domestic consumption, ending stocks, export, import, other production. For different type of coffees like roast and ground we have, for Robusta we have, for soluble we have, for Arabica, and we also have total distribution, total supply. Okay, we also have export and import. So what we are trying to do here is we will create cards, one card for each, that is total distribution, total domestic consumption, total imports, total export, and production. So for that, what we need to do is we will simply create our first row here, our first KPI row, and we will use card visual here. And in the card visual we will just start doing that. So first I will prepare the card visual because we have to show 5 elements here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I will use with such in such a way that we can put 5 elements here, 5 different cards here. First I will add total distribution. So this will show what is total distribution, and we will just rename for this visual as total distribution. Okay, this will be the total distribution. And in call out value I'm going to select a value around 30. Color I will select this color, and for heading we will select another color from the same theme, or we can select this color and make it bold. So this is total distribution. For this also we can now go to general tab, effects, can enable a shadow, a border, and that border color we can choose as this. So this is total distribution, 12 million, which is total distribution. If you want to show it in a different unit, you can go and select display unit in thousands. Okay, now after total distribution we have total supply. So what is the total supply here? And here we will just rename it as total supply. If you want, we can create separate KPIs for separate type of products also, like for beans, for roast and ground, you can see, for soluble, because we have their domestic consumption, export and import. So we can create those kind of KPIs. We'll see what we can do there. And here also, since we have total supply, for here also I will use the unit as 1000. So you can see total supply and total distribution are coming as same here. So that's why after total um, distribution instead of total supply, we can go with total domestic consumption. So here we will just rename for this visual as domestic consumption. Okay. So domestic consumption out of total distribution, you can see. So as we added total distribution, we have also added domestic consumption here, and you can see it is 4049K and it is 12,141K. Approximately 30% of that is going as a domestic consumption, total distribution value. So this is our second KPI, and our third KPI is going to be how much import and export do we have. So we have import and export, and remember the values that are given here are 1000 into 60 kg bags. Okay, so that is what this is, and we can put that as a note somewhere, which we will do later. So here this is sum of imports, which you can simply call as imports. So we will rename for this visual as imports, and then what is the amount of exports. So here we will put exports and just rename for this visual. This is exports. So we have total distribution, domestic consumption, import and export of different coffee products that we have. And now finally we need one for production. So we can copy, Control C, Control V here, and that will be production. So here we will simply align that. So for production we will add production here, which is 6801, and let's rename it as production. Then whenever we are doing it for different countries, right, so we have to use that as a filter somewhere. So we can use our slicer as a filter, because we have only one or two categorical fields in this data, and one of them, and the important one of them, is country. So suppose someone who is analyzing the report, someone who is analyzing the data. So first of all, in slicer settings, we will go as a drop down, and that person can go and check country wise information. So for font color, we are going to use this color, make it bold, and for values, we are going to select a dark color. Okay, and we are going to increase their font size to 14. And similarly, this is in slicer, this is slicer header, so its size also we can increase to 14, and this creates country card or slicer. We will select it, format painter, and apply here, so that it will copy the same styling. You can see it has copied the top padding also, so we can go to general setting, properties, padding, and reduce its padding so that it's also properly aligned in center. Depends upon box size. Here let's say we selected Albania, so you can see its total distribution, domestic consumption. So total distribution 2K, domestic consumption also, import is also the same value. For Argentina, for Armenia, you can see for many countries it is same. For some countries distribution is 1K, and all of that is export. Again, whatever assumptions are being made here are as per the data. But in some country like Costa Rica, you can see, let's try Belgium. So if we have Belgium, I think we don't have Belgium information here. So Canada, you can select 92K distribution, 92 import and exports. For Chile also the same. For China, different values. So, and this data that we are seeing here is the entire data. For India, it is total distribution close to 300K. Domestic consumption is also 62,000, and 22K is imports. The 172K is export, and total production is 212K. So this is why you can select different countries and you can select multiple of them and analyze the data as well. And from here you can clear the data. Now next is, if you want, you can include year as a filter as well, and that is your choice. So for example, if we can make some space here, we can move it and we can put year as a filter. We can have that option and we can reduce its size a little bit, and here we can simply drag year. So although year is given as a regular field, it will now be as a numerical field, it will now be given as a drop down. And if you want to see for any particular year, you can select that. So this is something that you can do from your end as an optional thing, and we can make more space here. Now that map, because we have a lot of country related information or so now after making proper space and alignments, we are going to use the field map. In field map we can, I'll let I'll show you how we can show different numbers as a gradient. So I will keep this much width here, and in this field map the first thing that we have is location. So you add that country as a location. So we have the country information, and as a longitude, latitude, we will just keep everything by default. And you can see whatever country names are there, those are now highlighted as a blue color. And in tooltips we can put a number. Let's say what our main number is production, or our target field is production or total distribution. So whatever that target field is, we will select that in the in that particular field. So we will put that as a tooltip. So let's say we are going with total distribution, and you can create for total production also, domestic also, or we can create multiple maps as well. And here, after adding this, you will notice nothing happens, but when you will go or place your mouse over a particular country, you will see that number. For example, US, for example, Brazil, right? So how can we show where this number is low, where this number is high? So to do that, we have to go to format your visual. Once this map visual is selected, then you have the fill color settings where default is blue color. We can either show all and select different colors for different countries. Okay, this is something that you can do, but it will be a big task and time consuming. So we will go to FX, which is conditional formatting. We can write rules here also, like if you know it contains, if the country contains text like India, then give it this color. Let's try. Just giving you an idea. Okay, so that color will be there. But we don't have to do this thing. We actually have to work on gradient. And in gradient, we have to select our numerical value, that is total distribution, and the summarization function that we are using is sum. So if there is a minimum value, we will display the minimum value with a red color. Okay, if it is a maximum value, or maybe since this is our theme color, so we will display minimum value with this color and maximum value with a dark color. So countries where distribution, total distribution is minimum, will be shown with this color, and maximum will be shown with this color, and all the countries falling between based on their numerical percentage out of total will be shown like that. So when you will click OK, now you can see, and as in the data set we can see Brazil is on top here. Okay, then a little bit more shaded is US, and this way you can see which countries, from which countries we have more total distribution. If you want, you can reduce its height. We can increase its height. Okay, because we may want to put multiple maps showing multiple data. So this is showing total distribution. I will simply copy the formatting so that we can apply here, and then I will go to title, and this is total distribution by country. Here we will select the same color that we have selected for other charts. Maybe this is not that color, that this one is, and I will align it to center. Okay, so this is total distribution by country. If we want, we can increase also. So we will increase its title size. Let's keep it 15, and I will show it in half width, because in lower half we can display something else. Similarly, whatever is your second most important field, so this is showing us distribution information. Now we can go and select, let's say, imports. Okay, so we are going with imports, and we are going to put imports in tooltips. So we are going with imports here, and you can see the same color, nothing changes, and that is because our gradient is still showing that, right? So our fx gradient, instead of sum of total distribution, we are going to select imports. So sum of imports, and then when you will click OK, you can see sum of imports is more in case of USA, right? So this is something that you can see from the data. Now we can add a color which falls in between also, because it's either plain or it's either very dark. So if you want, you can add a middle color also, and as a middle color, let's choose something that is completely different. Okay, so then you will see that it is actually falling in that red type of shade. So that is something that you can do. And this is total distribution. We will change the title to total imports by country. Okay, and finally, what is the total production? So we can copy this graph and simply do it for that also. Let's increase this, okay, and we can increase its height as well. Now for total imports, we can select another color. For example, now let's say total production. So in tooltip, let's add production, although it's a repetitive task, but we are just going with it. And now in your fill colors, we have to go with a different value. So we are creating three of them. You can create a chart where you can show all of them. It's your choice. And in terms of production, let's say we are going with another color shade. Let's say we are going with this color, and we are going with this color. Okay, so here we can select, and in terms of production also, you can see Brazil is on top, and the production value is 2222150, and this is the total distribution. Okay, now the next thing that we can add here is, since we have year information and we want to see year wise total distribution, consumption, import, export, or whatever you want to display. So let's group the data. So we will group the data in two parts. We are going to use a line chart, and in one line chart I'm going to show total distribution and domestic consumption. Okay, so on x-axis I'm going to put country name here, and on y-axis I will put total distribution. Okay, and on y-axis I will also put domestic consumption. So you can see now this graph represents country wise. I'm sorry for putting country there. Actually, I have to select year. Sorry about that. So this is how you can see, and they are after this particular point, like after 2001, they are pretty much parallel to each other, and very correlation is also there in this data. A good amount of correlation is there, and this is the yearly. distribution and consumption. So we can simply name this graph as yearly distribution and consumption. Okay, we can go and go to title. So we can write it like yearly distribution and domestic consumption simply. And we can copy this, and we can copy formatting and apply here. Okay, so this also copies the gradient style that we created on the basis of sum of distribution. It is showing us the gradient style. So if you want, you can go here, and your lines are there, and in lines we have all lines. Let's say sum of total distribution. In colors, by default you have these lines. Okay, so instead of going through that much, I will simply assign the different styling there manually, because I don't want to copy that particular styling. And sorry, visual border, I am going to select this one, and shadow is okay. We will go to title, and we will select the title as this color and make it bold, and align it to center, make it 50. So this is yearly distribution and domestic consumption. On the basis of that, we can create another chart, and here we are going to put three fields. Okay, that is import, export, and production. So we are going to put, and if you want, like what are the ending stocks, beginning stocks, those type of things can also be put here. So it's your choice. So we can create it that stock related data. So this is our, I will say this is our uh, overview dashboard, and in second part we can work on a more detailed dashboard. We can create a dashboard on the basis of different type of coffee and put more numerical visuals there. Let me increase its height, and here, yeah. So now here I am going to show in y-axis, I am going to put import, export, and production. Okay, so this is how you can analyze that. And for this, let's choose a scattered area chart. Okay, or sorry, stacked area chart, which is showing us the same numbers, but it is showing us how they increased. And you can see in the data set after 2002, everything is going at a more rapid rate. So this is yearly distribution and domestic consumption. And now you can select a particular country and select for that country. Okay, if you want to select, let's say we selected Angola and Argentina. So you can see for these countries how data is, or for Armenia or for Australia, right? You can select these countries and see the distribution. If you want to compare two countries, you can select them. Let's say if we select Chile and Brazil, what is the role there, right? So you can do it from there and as well. So this is our main yearly distribution and domestic consumption chart. This is yearly, and this is going to be import, production, and export by year. Yearly import, export, and production. Okay. If you want, you can go to background and select a simple background color for them. It's your choice. It's just optional. I'm just choosing it. So this is our coffee production and supply distribution analysis across 94 countries. Now, this is an optional thing. For example, we have soluble. Okay, what is soluble? Soluble coffee, also known as instant coffee, is coffee that has been brewed and then dried into powder or granules, and it dissolves quickly in hot water, making it fast and easy to prepare. So for this type of coffee, if you want to see its domestic consumption, total export and import, so you can create a multi-row card here. In that multi-row card, we can display multiple information. Okay, we can go to its setting, and these are the values. So we can increase the size of these values. We can choose a theme color that we have selected accordingly. Similarly, the category labels that are there, so we can also increase the category label size and their font, you know. So this is something that you can select from here. Let's increase the size. I'm just showing you from one particular card, and for this card you can go there in general settings. We have effects. We can enable a shadow, we can enable a visual border for them. Let's not go with visual border. So this is one way, and similarly we can copy it. Okay, and here let's make some space to put two of them. And here what we can do, we can remove soluble from here, and we also have roast and ground, roast and ground, and roast and ground, right? So we can put roast and ground production, we can put roast and ground, whatever this is, and domestic consumption, and we can just rename it. For example, we can go with roast and ground exports. Okay, instead of writing whole sum of, we can write roast and ground export. Similarly, rename, or we can give it a short name RNG. Okay, so or like they have given RST ground, so RST ground domestic consumption. So this way also you can write. So this is something that you can try from your end. And sometimes you can see when we are trying to increase the height of it, it is not taking equal. So we can go to properties. Width is 184, let's keep it to 190. Here also keep it to 190, so it will be equal width. And then we can, you know, align properly. So this is a simple chart that we have created to see the distribution, production and supply, to analyze coffee production, supply and distribution across 94 different countries. And this is our exploratory analysis dashboard, and we are going to use this dashboard as something similar, and in other, or in the second part, we are going to use this as a reference, and we are going to create more visuals focusing on different type of coffees and different type of other elements that are given here, other fields like ending stock, starting stock, etc. And we'll be creating coffee wise filters also. Like if you select Arabica, you will see that particular data. If you will select roast and ground, you will see that particular answer, or for soluble. So we'll try that in the second part. Thanks for watching this part. If you learned something from this video, please go ahead and just hit like button. Subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions or suggestions, please mention them in the comment section. Thanks once again. Have a nice day.